Hello and welcome to this game review, and as usual we will be talking about time management. So it started as the Slav e3, which is a possible move but probably not the most principled. Probably knight c3 should be played to not block this bishop. If black takes the pawn, white will get it back quite soon after knight e5 or e3 again, and the white should be doing quite fine. After e3 the bishop is blocked, but this is fine if white develops it like this. Now here, bishop d3, this is also not very principled, as white has a bit more space. He shouldn't exchange pieces like this, and especially black's worst piece, which is the bishop. But okay, this is fine. e6, and here white decides to exchange on d5, but this exchange makes no sense, as exchanging the c4 pawn for the e6 pawn can only benefit black. Now we are getting a Carlsbad structure where black has absolutely no problems. A usual problem is this bishop, but now it is developed. Only white has problems with this horrible bishop on c1, so black is now better. Black could also consider the exchange Slav, which is also not great for white, as the knight can now go to c6. So there was absolutely no logic in exchanging on d5. White should instead just castle, play b3, bishop b2, and eventually try to play the move e4. But now ed, castles, and queen c2. But this move is a bit strange, as it does not do anything. It does not encourage black to take here because it's defended here anyway. Instead, white should try to finish his development. Maybe play something like knight h4 to maybe try to take the bishop. If black takes, eventually white can aim for the plan of f3 and e4. So queen c2, bishop d2, and rook e8, and now white exchanges a3. So now white is going to play the minority attack, but somehow white already has used half of his time here, which is absolutely inexcusable and cannot happen ever again in such a positional and slow opening. There were no moments where white really had to think. Castling was simple. Queen c2 is also a move that requires no thinking. Bishop d2 as well, just finishing development. There, if we spend 5 minutes for every move in the opening, we will simply lose on time, and the move itself will have absolutely no relevance to the result of the game. This has to be understood as fast as possible. This is not the last time or the first time this has happened, and this habit of using all of your time in the opening has to stop as soon as possible. So again, we get some kind of position. Sure, white is not in a very pleasant position because the bishop on d2 was blocked quite early, and white exchanged into a Carlsbad structure, giving black the e-file, which allows knight e4 as well. But still, white should play the minority attack to get a weakness on c6. If black takes and takes here, white quickly regains the pawn, and he will have something to attack. Instead, knight e1, very passive, and here white plays the move f4, but there was no reason to play f4 here, completely weakening the e3 square and more importantly the e4 square. Instead, had white played f3, black would still be quite a bit better, for example queen h4, g3, but after bishop takes g3 and bishop c1, now the bishop is actually attacked, and the rook is attacked as well. So black should be slightly better, but it's nothing special. There were other moves as well, for example finishing development with knight d3, and of course black is better because he has an easy attack on the king side, but it should be manageable. After f4, now black is more or less winning positionally if he doesn't blunder anything, but after a few moves black does win a pawn, and here already white could have played this tactical shot with knight e5, which was played later. The point here is to get the rook on e3, but black can take with the bishop. We cannot take here because of the pin, but we can take back on e5. Now the minor pieces have been exchanged. Our rooks get some life, for example here, and even though black is still a pawn ahead, his king is not exactly the safest, and the white is more or less okay. Instead, queen d2 is played, and now rook e8 is played, but now white finds this tactic knight e5. It's worth pointing out again that here white has 4 minutes against 28, which is an absurd disadvantage in time. And already this should signal that white is more or less lost, and the position is also not great. But the most important thing is here the time situation. So here white did get lucky as his opponent was playing quite quickly, which usually means that he will make a mistake at some point, which happens here. But usually this should not really happen, and this is not a good strategy to use, using all of your time. But here 95 was played, which is the most important thing. Now we can't take the rook because there's no pin. And after this, white exchanged all the pieces, and this position is winning. It will require a little bit of effort against good defense, but black did not really defend very well. A few moves later, white played this move h4, which is maybe a bit unnecessary as it gives up a pawn, most likely, for example like this. White does get to play rook g2 here, and white is winning, but maybe there were other ways to play. For example here h3 with the idea to play g4 and open up the position on the light squares instead. But this is fine because black plays g4. Now after rook h2, h5 is unstoppable, and the white rook invades, and this works out quite well. White simply attacks the pawns and takes them, so the position was easy to win. Of course, time management was as usual the issue here, but this time white got a lucky break as his opponent blundered quite a simple tactic due to his too fast plays. So one of the opponents was too slow, the other one was too